Have you ever planted your raised beds and realized midway through the season that you laid out your plants all wrong and you weren't getting any harvest? Did you know there's a strategy to how you plant your vegetables in your raised beds? And if you don't do it right, you're going to be working really hard for those harvests or not get any harvest at all. Today I'm going to show you how to plant in your raised bed in such a way that you can double your harvest with less work. I'm Callie Kim. Welcome to my garden. Step number one is soil preparation. The most important thing you can do to double your harvest and do less work in the long run is invest some time into preparing your soil for those beautiful vegetables you're going to go. I promise you it's going to be worth it in the long run, and don't skip this step. We grew a whole bunch of vegetables in this raised bed during the winter time. So yesterday we pulled them all out, they reached the end of their life, and we took some time to prepare the soil by adding in some organic compost, some worm castings, granular fertilizer. Today I'm going to add in some Dr. Iron, which will really help the chlorophyll production of the plants, get them off to a good start, and it helps all the other organic nutrients work together so your plants are ready to grow from the get-go. If you're planting in your raised bed for the very first time, check out this video on how to fill your raised bed on the cheap with your own DIY good organic soil mix. If it's your second or third season planting in your raised bed, keep in mind that the soil does settle from season to season, so you need to top it off and refresh it by adding those good organic amendments that I just talked about. After soil preparation comes drip irrigation. Now I know you probably already know this, but you have to install your drip irrigation before you put your plants in your raised beds. And install it on a timer, because a timer is fail-proof. I'm not fail-proof. I forget to water my garden. I say I'm going to come out here and water it, and I don't. Drip irrigation set on a timer not only will save you a ton of work, but the most important thing is that it will water your plants consistently and get the water right to the root of your plants where it needs it the most, which will help your plants produce a lot more, and I guarantee it, that will double your harvest. Next, crop placement. Where you put your plants and why. Did you know there's a strategy to where you plant your vegetables in your raised bed? And if you get this part wrong, just like I said in my opening shot, you're gonna walk up to your raised bed one day and say, why aren't you growing? And we don't want that. The crop placement strategy is plant from shortest all the way up to tallest, being on the north side of your garden bed. And the reason for that is because you don't want the taller vegetables shading out the shorter vegetables. You can thank me by clicking the like button and subscribing. Now the thrillers are in the back or the north side of your garden bed if you're in the northern hemisphere. These are the tall, thrilling, eye-catching plants that provide a lot of height and structure to your garden, and they generally are very high producers. For example, these are scarlet runner beans, tomatoes, sunflowers, corn, even zucchini you can grow up vertically. Now in the middle here, that's going to fill in the middle section, in between the thrillers are the fillers. Those are more medium height plants and fill in the middle of your garden bed. These are things like beans, peppers, greens, anything that's a medium height vegetable, even some herbs. Now, along the edges, you're gonna have the spillers. And these are things like that will spill over the edge, making really efficient use of your space, again, helping you double your harvest. These are things like strawberries, even small varieties of squash. You can plant your small, low-lying pollinator flowers. Onions I like to plant along the edges of garden beds. Anything that you can kind of fill the gaps in around the edges to really help give you more production and pack more vegetables into your raised bed. Now that we have our crop placement strategy down, let's plant some high-yielding vegetables. This will really double your production and make it a lot easier for you to grow your raised bed as well. Now, I like to call these high-yielding vegetables the power producers because they really pack a punch. These are things like my scarlet runner beans here, the thrillers in the back of my garden bed. Highly productive bean, also really beautiful, and the pollinators love the red flowers, which is always a plus. The next thing that are power producers are squash. And I've got a Power Producer May subscription box. This variety of squash really packs a punch. It's called Costata Romanesco. And these seeds for this are in my box. And we're gonna actually plant some zucchini as a thriller up this trellis. Yes, you can do that, which saves you work and really helps maximize the production and the space in your raised bed. I have my hole dug for my zucchini, just pop it in the hole, and then as it grows, you feed the plants up through the trellis to maximize your space, and then you can actually see your zucchini to harvest a lot more. The next thrillers we're going to plant are cucumbers, also a very high-yielding vegetable and another one of my favorite power producers. Now we're going to plant these at the base of this trellis here, and vertical gardening is an absolute must to double your harvest. So when you're positioning your trellises in your garden beds, make sure you put them at the back of your garden bed or the north side of your garden bed so they're not shading out the fillers. And the sun here is coming from the south where Camera Guy is, so all these will be at the back and will not shade out the middle plants. So I'm going to pop in one of my very favorite cucumbers, the Diva cucumber. It is a disease-resistant variety and also a parthenocopic variety that only produces female flowers. So it's highly productive, and you definitely want to look for those highly productive, disease-resistant, high-yielding vegetables to pop here in your raised bed. Now I'm planting my cucumbers about 6 inches apart, the base of my trellis right along my drip irrigation hose. And now I'm going to plant some seeds, which is another strategy to double your harvest with less work. It's called succession planting, staggering your plantings to spread your harvest out so you don't have too many vegetables at once and so you don't run out of vegetables to harvest. So the transplants that I just planted here will be harvesting in probably a month or so, and as those crops start to die out, I'll have the new seeds that I'm planting here ready to harvest. They'll be popping up and ready to harvest in about 8 weeks. A great filler for the middle of your garden bed are peppers, and I love to plant the rainbow of peppers. This is the Coronado de Toro variety of pepper. Red and yellow mix in these plants here. And peppers do like a little bit of support. A small tomato cage is adequate. And place peppers fairly closely together. These are about 1 foot apart because what they do when they grow, the leaves shade out the pepper fruit from getting sun scald from the hot sun. Next filler is a tomato plant. Now I know what you're thinking. A tomato is not a filler, it's a thriller. I'm not planting my tomato as a thriller because I don't have space. And tomatoes take up a ton of room. It's going in as a filler because it's a dwarf tomato plant, but one that produces a ton. It's one of my favorites, Golden Nugget tomato. It's in my container garden seed collection. Well suited for containers as well, but grows great in small spaces. It's about a 3 foot tall plant, produces beautiful golden tomatoes, kind of cherry sized. So we're gonna pop it in here. You can see I have 3 or 4 seedlings in this little 6-pack, but we're gonna pop them all in. Then I'll thin them down to the strongest seedling as it grows. Be perfect here next to the pepper. So I'm gonna pop in this medium-sized cage here, and it will fill out this space beautifully and produce a ton of tomatoes. As far as power producers, you can't go wrong with beans. They're highly productive, super easy to grow, requiring very, very little work. And here we're gonna pop in a couple more beans from my May Power Producers subscription box. The Vermont cranberry beans, which are absolutely gorgeous, speckled bean. You can start seeds indoors or plant them right in your garden beds as long as your frost date is passed. So we're just gonna pop them in here a couple inches apart. And that's the great thing about beans too, is you can plant them very close together. They give you a quick crop. Now these here are Be Sweet edamame beans. And I grew edamame beans last year for the first time and absolutely loved them. They're very high in protein and grow super, super fast. And literally you can almost see them grow every single day. And they put on so many beans, and they're a nice little different type of bean to grow. And they're also in my May subscription box. I love these little bamboo arch trellises to help support the beans as they grow. They're very inexpensive. You can pick them up at your local garden center. We're also going to succession plant some beans for maximum harvesting. And you can also utilize succession planting by starting seeds indoors if you don't have room in your garden beds. And again, that way, by the time the crops in your garden beds are dying out, you'll have transplants to take their place. Another great filler that's also a power producer is basil. You always want to have some herbs in your garden bed. And this is Italian large leaf basil from my spring garden seed collection. It is a big producer and a pretty good sized plant too. It's a nice medium height, but produces a ton of leaves that you can harvest all season long. You can just pinch the top. It will grow nice and bushy, and the more you pinch it, the more you harvest it, the more it's gonna produce. More fillers going in under here. These are the cool season greens, and the strategy I'm using for this is pop them in now in the early spring, and as the cucumbers grow, it will provide some shade, some protection so they last longer, in the heat, and that way you're able to get a lot more harvest out of them. So I'm popping in some transplants I started in the house. These are the prize head lettuce from my lettuce seed collection, an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous variety of lettuce, red tinged leaves, and very, very productive. Putting it right by the drip emitter so it gets the water it needs to keep on producing. Can you believe it? We're down to our last filler here, and this one is a power producing green. It's arugula. It grows so fast, one of the fastest greens ever, a bit more heat tolerant than lettuce. Will do well here in the shade, and we're gonna pop in some seeds as well. These will germinate literally within a couple of days, and we could be eating fresh arugula from seed in about 3 weeks. For more layouts and planting plans for your raised beds, grab my book on raised bed gardening over at CallieKimGardenandHome.com. We've got our thrillers, we've got our fillers, our garden bed is really starting to take shape. Now let's put in the spillers. So these are the vegetables, again, that spill over the edges and really maximize the space in your garden bed. One of my very favorite spillers to grow are strawberries. We did a strawberry crate tower a couple of weeks ago. Make sure you watch the May Must Plant video for more info on that. But when you plant strawberries, number one, they're absolutely beautiful in your raised bed, but you want to make sure that you leave the crown exposed. That's the portion where the strawberry stem meets the root of the strawberry. So leave that exposed for maximum growth. But I also love to plant pollinators, short little cute pollinators along the edge of my garden beds. These are the teddy bear sunflowers. And it really is nice to interplant your flowers with your vegetables to bring the pollinators right in where you need them to pollinate your vegetables. And these are a nice short little dwarf sunflower in my sunflower seed collection. They only grow to about 2 feet high. So I like to interplant them in between the strawberries. You really make the most of the edges of your garden bed to maximize every square inch. That way you can double your harvest. Follow these strategies when planting your raised bed, and your garden will thank you by doubling your harvest, and you'll be doing less work. Thanks for watching. See you next time in the garden.